Thrive Nation, on today's show, we're discussing the importance of voting based upon principles, policies, party platform, and lastly, personality. Again, the importance of voting based upon principles, policies, party platform, and last, personality. Aaron, why should you make your decision on who you're going to vote for based upon principles, based upon policies, based upon the party platform, and last, why should the absolute last thing that you should factor into your mind be the personality of the candidate?
Oh, well, because first of all, the personality is not something you're going to remember 4 years from now or 8 years from now, but you will have the lasting results of the policies that they put in place and the platform that they run on. Those things are going to impact you and your family and your business's life for many, many years to come. It's not going to be short term.
All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, it is a very special occasion because we are getting very close to the 2020 presidential election. And James, you are joining us here from the great state of New York. You have fled Manhattan to be here with us on today's show. You also happen to be an attorney. Are you excited about the election? Are you worried about the election? How are you processing us heading into the final few days before America casts their vote for the next president of these great United States?
I'm super duper excited about the election, and one of the reasons why is because, I've been listening, thanks to you, to Dan Bongino quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And he's had a couple of guests on his show, and he's also noticed this. And everywhere that they're driving, everywhere, they're not seeing any Biden signs, but they're seeing a ton of Trump signs. And I think Dan said he saw one Biden sign.
Now, I want to ask you this question. And
Yes,
did you play sports, James, in college or high school?
High school, yeah.
Okay. Stan Suttles, did you play sports in college or high school?
High school.
High school. And when you played sports, what sport were you best at?
Probably swimming.
Swimming. And can you think back on to a really good coach you had? A really, really good coach?
Coach Stevenson.
Coach Stevenson. James, can you think of a really great coach?
Yes, sir.
Could there be a difference between the most effective coach and the most well-liked coach? I mean, I just think about my life, and I think about some of the best coaches I had. And we won a lot, but I don't know that I wanted to hang out with my coach. I don't know if you would agree with that, Stan. Could you kind of relate to being on a winning team, but maybe having a coach you're kind of afraid of a little bit?
Yeah, I had coaches I'm afraid of, but my favorite coach, Coach Stevenson, was one that you wanted to hang out with.
So you wanted to hang out with him,
Yep.
and he was effective.
Mm-hmm.
But it is possible for you to have a coach that's effective that maybe you don't want to hang out with.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, if you're trying to win games or win events or win, you want to look at somebody's record. And I think in the world of politics, what happens is we invert the priorities and we begin to vote based upon personalities. And that's how New York ends up with a guy like Cuomo. Please explain Governor Cuomo out there in New York. What kind of things has he, tell me, how many businesses has Governor Cuomo killed through his jackassery and ridiculous policies?
Well, I mean, I can't explain Governor Cuomo, but what I can do is tell you, like you said, what his policies have done, and particularly as it affects New York City. And in July, the New York Post reported that 1/3 of New York City's small businesses may never reopen. And that is about 80,000 people. So, 80,000 businesses. There's 240,000 small businesses in New York, so 80,000 is a third.
But a lot of people kind of bought into the personality of him, the hype of his brother Chris Cuomo. You think about Governor Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan.
It's also family, his parents, I guess his dad, all the legacy.
It's dangerous to vote based upon personality. And so, Stan, you took the time to do some research, and I'm going to kind of read some of the research that you have done, and then I want to ask you some questions about this because I know people are thinking about who to vote for right now. And specifically, I want to speak to our Christian listeners, or those who are freedom-loving Christians, maybe Jewish, Catholic listeners. Joe Biden is for abortion. Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, is in favor of abortion, and President Trump is against abortion. As a Christian voter, how do you process the two candidates on that issue alone, Stan?
Well, I have to look to the biblical model for that.
Okay. And what is the biblical model?
The biblical model is we're not to harm the baby in the womb.
And it's a hard-line stance for you.
It is a hard line stance. If I had one issue to vote on, and that was the only one, that would be what I vote for.
So where does the confusion come? Because I see so many people, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or wherever they're posting or commenting, I hear Christians who have come up with some sort of justification in their minds for voting for a pro-abortion candidate. What kind of arguments do you hear, Stan, that are contrary to that?
Well, I think our culture has just been one that's slowly acquiesced to a humanistic viewpoint. So we sort of start justifying or trying to justify through all kinds of reasoning that to arrive at a place where we feel comfortable and can fit in.
I think if we look at the Bible and we believe the Bible to be a real a document that was inspired by God, you look at Exodus chapter 20, verse 13, it says, "Thou shalt not kill." I think, though, if you're smart enough, James, you're an attorney, you've seen this. If you're smart enough, you can justify anything.
Well, I mean, I had a conversation with my daughter about this, who's 13 years old, on Saturday morning, and she says, "So if somebody raped me and got me pregnant, you wouldn't want me to get an abortion?" I didn't know how to answer that, other than by saying, don't kill, don't take a life.
Stan, how would you answer that question?
Again, I would have to draw the attention of my children to the Bible, what the Bible says about it. It's clearly simple for me in that respect.
So let's go through this, the 4 Ps. The importance of voting based upon principles, policies, party platform, and lastly, personality. Stan, why is it so important, step one, to look at the principles of the candidate? Why is it important that we, the voter, decide who we're going to vote for based upon their principles first? Why is that so important that we start there?
Well, because principles really set the stage and set a course for the country, while personality doesn't.
Interesting. So the principles that you look for this show, let's compare. Let's assume that some listeners out there are busy people. They're business owners. We have about 500,000 listeners that are busy people. They got a lot going on. And they haven't had a chance to really break down the principles of the two candidates. Let's focus first on abortion. We'll get into some other stuff. The principle of Joe Biden and the principles of President Trump. Stan, I want to get your take on that.
Well, no matter what you think of Trump, he is probably the most, I think, is considered the most pro-life president we've ever had. And Biden clearly has stated, as his party platform suggests, that they are pro-abortion.
It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's pretty.
It is.
Now, if you look at principles, James, I want to get your take on this. Okay. You look at the blue states. It's very clear. If you look across the United States and you see the states that voted Democrat, if you had a little map of the United States and you see the states that voted for a Republican candidate, this is the states that are Republican-controlled, the states that have the Republican governors, those states are the red states. The blue states are the Democrat states. The blue states, Michigan, California, New York, Oregon, Washington, these states are suffering. People are losing their jobs in droves, these blue states. Whereas the red states, states like Texas, Florida, South Dakota, they are actually thriving. As an example, the mayor of Broken Arrow, who you've met on this show multiple times, he's a client of mine, a good friend of mine. He and I talked. He looked at all the facts, and he says, you know what? We can't justify killing every business in Broken Arrow to protect Americans from a virus that, by the way, has well over a 99% survivability rate, and that we know there's treatments that have been used by Dr. Richard Bartlett, the former top medical advisor for Governor Perry. This guy's treated over 1,000 people who had COVID-19 with no fatalities. He's saying we cannot possibly justify mask mandates and ongoing lockdowns and the shuttering of schools and the closing of churches. But yet, James, Governor Cuomo, Governor Whitmer, Governor Newsom, these people continue to justify ongoing lockdowns. And Joe Biden has said that if he is elected, he will look at doing national lockdowns again and a national mask mandate. let's talk about the principles. I want to get your take on this here. If we vote for Biden, should we be shocked if he shuts the country down again?
No, not if he does what he says he's going to do.
It wouldn't shock you at all?
If he shut down the country after we vote for him? No.
And I think that people are somehow they go, well, I just don't like Trump's tone. I don't like his tone. I don't like his hair. I don't like his hair and his tone. I don't like the tone of his hair. I don't like his skin tone. I don't like that he's orange. I don't like that he says huge, beautiful. I don't like the hand gestures. And some people get so focused on the personality, Stan, that they're blinded to the principles. Can you help somebody out there that is so mad at Trump right now? They just don't like him as a person that they are unwilling to even help somebody. I'm assuming that someone's listening to this because they're trying to be awakened here.
Quite frankly, I've never been a real fan of Donald Trump. I mean, I too was taken back by his mannerisms and his speech and stuff like that. But, we're not electing him to be a pastor. We're electing him to be a president.
What's the difference?
Well, a president is going to lead a nation. A pastor is going to lead a flock of people in a church, and they're diametrically opposed in terms of the scope of them.
I feel as though people say, pastors, I work with pastors, so I talk to pastors often. No exaggeration, I've probably talked to 500 plus. Devin, you know this, the Peaceable Gather website.
Yeah.
We have pastors
Hundreds.
all across the country that reach out because they want to ask questions about COVID-19 as it relates to the church shutdowns.
Right.
I have personally talked to well over 500 pastors in the last 5-6 months. It's crazy. And it's interesting to me, Stan, that some pastors are going, well, if our communist governor says we need to shut down, we need to shut down. And then other pastors, thankfully, say, no, we believe in these United States that we are given certain unalienable rights from our Creator God, and that governments are instituted amongst men to simply uphold those rights. Mm-hmm. But there seems to be a division there in the church. What do you think the dangers are of having a Christian church that turns its head to politics and turns a blind eye to politics and says, we're going to sit this one out. I'm not going to comment from the pulpit. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a mistake because our forefathers and the churches that were about our nation early in our history were very vocal with regards to the government.
Vocal. Can you educate us about what you mean by that?
There are there are 2 volumes of books that I know of that are nothing but pastoral sermons addressing specifically political issues from the pulpit.
From the pulpit.
Calling the government to accountability.
Stan, I know you've been on the planet, Stan, for at least 27 years at this point. Is this, you've lived through, what year did you enroll in college as a freshman?
1971.
How did you meet my dad in 1971?
Playing intramural basketball.
Really?
Yep.
Was that your sport? Were you good at basketball too?
And I played basketball. I wouldn't say I was great, though.
Who was the best of the non-ORU basketball players you remember in that time? Was there a certain guy you think back and go, oh, that guy was good? Was it
Bill Walton, maybe?
Okay.
UCLA?
Okay, he was the best?
Probably so.
How good was the ORU basketball team at that point?
In their heyday in the early 70s, they were a ranked team.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a top 20?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
And who was our best player on the Oral Roberts University? Do you remember?
Probably Richard Fuqua.
Richard Fuqua. My phone's ringing. It's crazy. So Richard Fuqua, and did he go on to play at the next level?
Yes, he did.
Really? Mm-hmm. So he played NBA or
ABA.
ABA. Richard Fuqua.
Yeah, and that's what I recall. I think his knees gave out on him, but he played ABA.
Okay. So you meet my dad, 1971. What is this the craziest time you've seen politically since you've been on the planet and have been aware of what's going on? I mean, is this the craziest political year you've ever seen?
Yes, absolutely.
What would be the second craziest year up to now?
Probably when Bush was running for his first term, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But this is like a magnitude on the political crazy scale. Is this 2 times crazier than you've ever seen? 5 times crazier? I mean, how crazy is this in your mind?
It's off the chart.
How vital is it for Americans, for the American evangelicals, for the Christian listeners out there to get out there and vote this time around for Trump?
It's very vital. I mean, our country depends on it. If we don't vote for a biblical platform, we are headed down the path to socialism.
And what is socialism? For the people out there that aren't educated about why, because some people think, oh, socialism, free stuff, this seems like a great idea. But you and I know that socialism leads to communism, which leads to Marxism, which leads to, and that Venezuela, Cuba. You think about Venezuela, how did it go? Not so well. Think about it's the USSR, former communist-controlled Russia. North Korea, not going so well. People always think it's going to go well. And then they say, I know it didn't go well there, but let's try it in Venezuela. Let's just see what happens in Venezuela. Oh, it doesn't go. And every time it ends up leading to lines in the stores, to scarcity, to poverty, to famine, to people losing their jobs. It always ends bad. But then someone says, but we should try that. Why don't we try it? Let's just try it one more time. But it never works. Stan, why does it not work?
Well, I think Margaret Thatcher said it best. She said socialism works great right until you run out of everybody else's money. So it's just a system that has failed and failed and failed time and time again. So, but they've always got a better way to implement it. So that's what they're touting now.
So if we're going into this into the voting booths to vote, step one, you look at the principles. 2, you look at the policies. Now, I don't expect all the listeners to all of a sudden become experts on policies, but I just want to get into a couple of them. Are there a few policies or a couple points that you wanted to articulate, Stan, for all the Christian listeners out there that they need to know about this election that would maybe encourage them to why they would need to vote for Trump? Is there a specific policy or 2 that you could point to?
Well, certainly abortion's at the top of the list.
Yeah, abortion's my top.
And so, and again, our form of government, socialism is a place that we don't want to go. So I think those are the 2 things that I think of most, because once you're on that path, it's going to be hard to back up.
Do you have a favorite restaurant that you and your wife like to go to? Is there a favorite restaurant? Favorite kind of food?
Mexican.
And you can usually tell if it's a Mexican restaurant because there's tortillas, there's beans, there's rice. There's some context clues there. I mean, James, you can kind of figure it out pretty quick because no matter what you order, they say, yeah, that has beans and rice and tortillas. It doesn't really matter what you get. I mean, you know how it is. Devin, it doesn't matter what. There's some combination of beans and rice. You can figure it out pretty quick that you're in a Mexican restaurant. Now, to me, people want to overcomplicate the voting process. You can tell pretty quick if somebody is a God-loving, pro-capitalist candidate. Are you pro-life or not? Okay. If you're pro-life, if you're in favor of not aborting babies, you're my candidate. You're the Christian candidate. If you're in favor of capitalism, you're my candidate. If you are in favor of the murder of babies, a.k.a. abortion, you're not my candidate. And it doesn't matter what you say beyond that point. I think, James, I want to get your take on this. Most candidates, even Barack Obama, they kind of pretend to be Christians a little bit. Mm-hmm. They kind of want to be a little bit Christian. So if you look at remember Jeremiah Wright, the pastor that came out of nowhere that said that that Obama is a faithful attendee of the church in Chicago. Do you remember this guy?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, my gosh. And so it seems like all the candidates, they kind of want to throw in a little ode to Jesus because they know that's the move you have to win in American politics today. They like to throw in the little Jesus thing. But I want to get your take on this. Is there a policy, James, that you would look at, or policies that you would look at that say this is why you're voting for President Trump?
I agree with Stan. Preserving capitalism, preserving democracy, anti-socialism. I mean, there's also capability and capacity and experience. I mean, Biden's been in office in government for 47 years.
47 years. He's just heating up, folks. He's just getting going. He's just heating up. Oh, man. I tell you what, I mean, Biden, and by the way, he sounded just awful today during his press conferences. It seemed as though he forgot where he was twice. It's the craziest thing ever. So let's go back to these. Again, if you're thinking about voting, and you should be, if you're going to go vote, and you should be, when you vote, the last thing that matters is personality. The first thing, we're talking about the 4 Ps. The first thing you want to look for is the principles of the candidate. The second, policies. Third, party platform. Stan, I want to talk about this. What is something in the party platform that you look at and go, okay, I can't go Democrat as a Christian? What's maybe something in the platform in general, the party platform, where you go, can't get down with that?
I think their viewpoint of the Supreme Court, for instance, it's that body was never designed to legislate, and yet they are overruling the voice of the people. And it did so in terms of, I think, the last major decision they made was on marriage.
Yep.
And that was they did not have the authority to do that, but they did it anyway.
It's unbelievable. I also would say this. I believe, now, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you drove here today, James.
That's right.
And Stan, I believe that you drove here.
Yes.
Devin, did you drive here?
I drove here.
I believe that the four of us all drove here. And Joe Biden keeps telling people when he's on a debate stage that he's not in favor of banning fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. But then when he meets with crowds of people in an all-Democrat, heavy socialist environment, he then says he is in favor of banning fossil fuels. So I thought we could do for just a second is cue up some audio of Joe Biden talking about fracking. Because during the debate with President Trump, he said flat out, I am not in favor of banning fracking. And if you have the footage of me saying that, I want you to put it on your website. So let me just cue the audio. This is President Trump and Joe Biden discussing fracking in America.
I have never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure?
Exactly. No new fracking. You got to transition away from it. Look, you're going to ban fracking all across America right now, right?
I would love to.
Yeah, I'd love to too. I'd love to make sure we can't use any oil or gas, period. To look in my eyes, I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel.
We aren't going to get rid of fossil fuels.
It's just unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable to me. And then today, one of my favorite ones, did you see, Stan, where Joe Biden he appears to forget that he is actually voting in favor, or he's actually running against Donald J. Trump. Have you seen this audio yet where Biden appears to forget that he is running against Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think thought he was running for Senate, didn't he?
Listen to this audio. And he's on camera with his wife, Jill, and Jill Biden has to turn to him and remind him that he's running against Trump. So here we go. Let me cue it up.
What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia. He's going to find ourselves in a position where, if Trump gets elected, we're going to be in a different world. What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia. He's going to find ourselves in a position.
And she looks at him and says, Trump. She says, Trump, you're going to, remember who you're going against there, buddy. Okay, so let's talk about it again. Principles, that goes in first. You got to put it in you got to put it in their priority list here. You have to do it. And by the way, you pulled some great statistics here, Stan, but George Barna, they're a research group that works closely with religious organizations, specifically Christian organizations, and they've determined that 39 million evangelicals did not show up to vote at the polls last time around. And that number includes 13 million that didn't even register to vote, and 26 million registered voters that did not vote. Mm-hmm. Stan, that cannot be the plan. That cannot be the plan. No. We got to get out there, and I'm hoping that we can, through this show, to 500,000 listeners, that we can pick up 1,000 people who wake up. So we have got limited time, final 90 seconds. I want to get your take on this, Stan, and I want to get James your take on this. Somebody out there is going, I want to vote, but I might be out looking for a good burrito that night, and I don't know if I have time to vote. I want to vote, but we might be traveling. I want to vote, but I might be with the grandkids coming in town. I don't know. I'd like to vote, but I'm planning the wedding. I sat the last one out, and my vote probably doesn't even matter. Stan, what would you say to the evangelical Christians listening out there that are thinking about sitting this one out because, what really does their vote matter?
Yeah. The other day I heard someone say that to vote is a spiritual act on our part. It's something that I think as a believer we need to take seriously and make time to do. So it's, from my standpoint, the direction of our country relies on our willingness to get out there and do our part.
I think that Christians, a lot of times, Carlton Pearson, years ago, I used to spend a lot of time with Carlton Pearson and other pastors. And one of the pastors made a comment to me, and I thought it was not motivational at the time, Stan, but he said, Clay, if you want to hide something from a Christian,
put it in the Bible.
You got to put it in the Bible. And I'm like, oh, snap. So I'm going to just read part of the Bible. This is Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16, and it reads, Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on the hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Stan, somebody said, I want to be a Christian, but I kind of want to be a closet Christian. I mean, why as Christians is it so dangerous to not speak up for the candidate, President Donald J. Trump, who is pro-life? Why can we just not hide our light, our candle? Why can't we just sit this one out, Stan?
Well, if we sit this one out, that saltiness that we provide to our country and to our government and to our educational system, to all the aspects of our country is void. And when we take our influence away, darkness takes those areas over.
James, you're an attorney, therefore you're salty.
If you say so.
What are your thoughts? Seriously, what are your thoughts about this? The Christian argument that so many people have of listen, I don't get into politics. I don't want to get out there. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to argue with family over it. What would you say?
Well, there's two things. The first is, if you don't stand for something, then you really stand for nothing. And it's the cognitive dissonance that you point out, walking into the politically correct and ambiguous places. Like what Stan said earlier about going into a Mexican place, and I think that this is the point that you were making earlier through Stan, was we know what it is. We know what it stands for. We know that there's rice and beans with every meal, and we know what we're getting. I may not like it, but we know what we're getting, right? And then the second thing is, in terms of the platform and the policy, I don't know where this falls on this, but I just want to get back down to brass tacks and get people who know math, because this side doesn't know math. Kamala Harris is saying there's 220 million people that have died, million Americans have died, and Neil Ferguson, who was the whole reason for this movement, was off by 25 times. So these guys are off by multiple.
The man who made the models that predicted 2.2 million Americans would die, he was the head of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute, and he predicted 2.2 million Americans would die, and he was off by 25 times. So you're saying, though, I'm going to make sure we're getting this. We're all on the same team here, and I want to get Praying Antis's take on this in just a second, too. But there are four things we got to put in our mind. Four things right now. There's 4 P's of voting, and it's a priority list here, okay? The first thing we look for when voting for a candidate is look at their principles, period. Who's pro-life? Who's pro-death? Which candidate is in favor of which candidate is in favor of aborting babies? Okay, Kanye West was just on the Joe Rogan show, and this is a powerful thing that Kanye pointed out. Joe Rogan was asking Kanye about various things related to all things Kanye, the Yeezy brand, to becoming a billionaire, and this is what Kanye interrupted Joe Rogan to say. Let me hit play.
Let me talk about Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
The last figure I saw is there were 210,000 deaths due to COVID in America. And everywhere you go, you see someone with a mask on. With the A word, a culture, I'll say it one time, with abortion culture, there are 1,000 black children aborted a day, daily. We are in genocide. So more black children have died in the past since February than people have died of COVID.
Think about that. So again, we got to go principles. Which candidate is pro-life? Which one is pro-choice? You got to vote President Donald J. Trump. Principles first. The second is policies. Yes, you have a hot take.
Oh, I was just going to say, that if people need help with math, even though I'm an attorney, they can go to my website, thelawyerjames.com, and I can help them out with math if they want to.
You do that too.
Or
Well.
law, yeah. So sorry to interrupt.
Okay. No problem. Okay, so but principles, we look at that first. Second, we look at the policies. Third, we look at the party platform. And fourth, lastly, we look at personality. And so what I'm going to do, James, I'm going to kick you out here just for a second to wrap up today's show. I want to get Aaron Prang Antis on the show. Now, this guy... Stan, Aaron runs Shaw Homes, which is Oklahoma's largest home building company. This is Stan Suttles. He actually met my dad during my dad and Stan's first year at college at Oral Roberts University.
Oh, awesome!
This guy's an old schooler, and he didn't reach out to be on the show. I harassed him to get him on the show because I wanted somebody who is a calm, reasonable, level-headed, Christ-loving person on the show, who I think is indicative of a lot of our listeners, to share the importance of voting. And Stan did a great job breaking it down. He says, you got to look at the principles first. Then you look at the policies of the candidate. Then you look at the party platform. And then last, you look at the personality. What would you say, Aaron Antis, to somebody out there who says, I would vote Trump. I got to vote Biden. Got to vote Biden. I would vote Trump. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life, and I know that abortion kills 1,000 black children in the United States every day. I recognize that the screams from heaven are the screams of these babies that are going up to heaven, all being murdered. 1,000 a day. 1,000 babies a day are being murdered. 1,000 babies are being murdered a day. 1,000 every day. But I don't like Trump's personality. I know that every hour, 41 black children, just black children, not white children or other children of other ethnicities. 41 kids, I'm going to let them be killed today because I don't like Trump's personality. What would you say to the evangelical Christians out there, those that claim to be in favor of pro-life, when they say, well, I put the personality first?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. This day I have set before you life and death. Choose life. That, to me, is the plumb line of Scripture. Life and death. So if that plumb line lines up with the Bible, then I believe the other stuff typically falls into place. And a perfect example of this would be, you look at the candidate that is for the nation of Israel. I mean, it's very clear that if you are with Israel, then you are going to be blessed. If you read Scripture, it's very clear that if you are with Israel and you're a protector of Israel, then God's on your side. So my question is, there are two nations that have been on this earth for a very long time. One of them currently is the United States of America, but the one that's way before that is God's chosen people was Israel. The difference between Israel and America is that America is the people who chose God. So if we chose God, then we need to continue to choose the people who line up with defending Israel and defending life, because he said, choose life.
So final parting shot. Why are you, Aaron Antis, voting for President Donald J. Trump to be the next president of these great United States?
For the reason of the plumb line of Scripture of following after and choosing life, because all life comes from God, and we need to be a protector of what he's interested in. And he is interested in his chosen people, Israel, and he's interested in life. So for those reasons, now I don't really care about his personality and what he tweets out. I'm not trying to elect my pastor. I'm trying to elect the person who's going to line up with, the things that are best for our nation.
Now, you and Stan hadn't talked about this ahead of time, and you just walked into the studio here, but yet you said the same thing. It's the same logic. And I'll just leave the listeners with my final parting shot here. I have had some really nice people. Devin, you've seen really nice people work in our office over the years.
Yeah.
Who are terrible at their job.
True.
I mean, I'm talking about some epically nice, like you go, wow, that kind of person, thumbs up, good job, way to be a great person. But at the end of the day, you're terrible at writing search engine content.
True.
And we've had some people that I don't like them. Like, I don't want to hang out with them. Wouldn't want to go have a beer with them. Wouldn't want to have a coffee with them either. But they can sit down and they can draft and draw some incredible houses here. And you've seen this.
Oh, yeah.
Some great architects that have no social skills.
True.
There are some great search engine people that you can't talk to, and they can't talk to you. There's some great linebackers out there that aren't the best conversationalists.
Probably true.
I mean, there are some great basketball players, Michael Jordan included, that are known to be difficult people, but they're great at the game of basketball.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to save this country and make it a win for America, you just have to vote President Donald J. Trump. If you're not in favor of abortion, you got to vote for President Donald J. Trump. If you're not in favor of banning fossil fuels, you got to vote for President Donald J. Trump to be the president of these great United States.
Let me throw one other thing in there, Clay.
Okay.
And that is,
here we go.
you know, there has not been a president that I can remember in a very, very, very long time who has even brought up Jesus. And Trump was asked, "Are you the most famous person?" And you know what his response was? Nope, there's one that's greater and much greater than I am, and that's Jesus Christ. And most presidents will bring up the name of God because a lot of people, including Oprah, think that there's every way leads to God, but not Jesus.
Now, before we call our next guest, let me cue up that audio real quick here. Here we go.
Somebody said to me the other day, "You're the most famous person in the world by far." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." They said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No." They said, "Who's more famous?" I said, "Jesus Christ." I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to have an argument. Hey, I'm not having any arguments. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to take any chances. I'll give it, I guarantee. And let me look up and I'll say, and it's not even close.
All right, now
There's
Thrive
only one
Nation,
way.
we got to get out there and vote. You got to vote, make it happen. Make your vote count. Get out and vote. Vote in person. Show up. Stan, thank you for being on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show. Aaron Antis, you're sticking around with me for the next segment.
Yes, sir.
And here we go.
3, 2, 1, boom! You are now entering the dojo of Mojo and the Thrive Time Show.
Thrive Time Show on the microphone. What is this? Top of the iTunes charts in the category of business. Drilling down on business topics like we are a dentist. Providing you with mentorship like you are an apprentice. And we go so fast that you might get motion sickness. Grab a pen and pad to the lab. Let's get in this. It's time to bear some fruit like some Florida oranges. 3, 2, 1. Here come the business ninjas.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, I could not be any more excited than I am right now for these two guests here, Camille and Haley Harris. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you two?
Oh, so happy, fellow Tulsans. So this is exciting.
You two, I would describe you two as songwriting sisters. How would you describe what it is that you do?
Oh, yes. Okay, so we're very, we sing about causes and things we care about.
I was going to say we become cause singers, I think.
You know, we're a little bit more than entertainers because it's kind of important times right now. So,
you know,
we love doing it all.
One of the things that really hurts my cranium when I watch TV, which I don't do, but Aaron, you know how this is. By the way, Aaron Antis runs Shaw Homes. And you and I have the same worldview on this, but like I want to watch a movie. I want to watch a football game, and I don't want to. When I watch a football game, I'm looking for entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking to be entertained. I want to have a good time. I want to relax. I do not want to see the people on the field disrespecting the men and women who fought for this great country.
No.
So I've just turned it off this year. I can't watch the NBA.
Yep.
I can't watch the NFL. I want to listen to music. But then I don't want to know that like my favorite music artist is married to a pedophile, like in John Legend's case. I'm not interested. I can't. It's hard for me to listen to the song when I know that the singer John Legend is married to a pedophile. It's hard for me sometimes to enjoy any movies at all today because you know of all the connections to pedophilia. And I like when I'm finding more and more that artists their story matters to me as much as the content.
True.
And these two ladies, they really do stand for what's great in America. So, Camille, I'm going to start by asking you this. You have some big ideas, 8 big ideas related to protecting protecting our God-given American freedom. So I'm going to start with you, Camille. What are your thoughts about Christians needing to vote in the 2020 presidential election?
You know, I have been a long time, very passionate voter. I'm 28 years old, almost 29 in January. Haley's 27. And it's mind-boggling me that so many Christians think that they can just abandon the scene and that God is going to have his way. It's like, where else does that ever work in life? You know, we are stewards of the earth. We're stewards of our bodies. We're stewards of our houses. We're stewards of, you know, our money. And if we just let go, you're always going backwards if you're not going forward, right? You're never just standing still. And freedom always has to be fought for. Just because we won our independence doesn't mean we're just free forever. You know, that there's not socialists and communists that want to come and take over. So Christians have kind of dug their heads in the sand, and they don't realize that we are actually the largest voting bloc in America at 25%. And I think it was about like 40% of Christians like didn't vote in the last election or something like that.
Unbelievable.
And so there's different numbers, I'm sure, but just, you know, elections, this is why a lot of times the liberals, they go after like small percentages of people because they know small percentages win races, you know? And so if just Christians would step up and say, you know what, it doesn't matter if whoever's on the ballot is perfect or not. I'm choosing the best of in every election, because if you don't choose the best of, sometimes you're going to get the worst of someone who believes even less than what you believe. So it's really funny that we've decided that, like, you know, liberals will have better judgment than we will. You know,
I'm going to throw this out here just to be clear, because I'm assuming people don't know this, but President Donald J. Trump is pro-life. President Joe Biden is in favor of abortion. Every single day, 1,000 black U.S. children are aborted. Every single day. May we all hear their screams.
No doubt.
1,000 every day.
No doubt.
So many more black children are dying from abortion than COVID-19. Okay. Also, Joe Biden is a big fan of removing the police, of backing organizations like Antifa, supporting these people that actually want to remove the police. So I want to get your take on this, Haley, as we're talking about the candidates and what they stand for. What are your thoughts on what patriotism in America is really all about? People throw out the word, oh, patriot, you're a patriot. Oh, you're a great American. You're a great American patriot. But what does that mean, Haley?
Well, first, voting, loving your country, praying for your country, and educating. And if you are educated enough, run yourself. And just, spread the word about the good stuff.
That's a good word right there. Run yourself. I agree.
That's great. Okay, so I want to ask you this here, and this is a Camille question for you. Constitution. When I say the Constitution, when I say the Declaration of Independence, when I say the Federalist Papers, I think when we read the Constitution, if we were to do that, I think most people go, yeah, I know what that is. I think, I know what that is. I think probably 85% of our listeners would go, I know what that is. I think
heard of it.
I honestly do, though. I think about 85% of our listeners, maybe 95%, would go, yeah, I know that. Now, the Declaration of Independence, I think all the listeners would say, or most of them would say, I know what that is. Now, James, I think we would lose. You're an attorney, but I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, because you have a lot of friends who are not politically active, and you know, we all have friends that are or are not politically active. I think when we would mention the Federalist Papers, I think we would lose probably 90% of people right there. They would go.
I think more than that, maybe even 95.
I don't know what that is. But Crazy Camille here is actually recommending that we read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Federalist Papers. And when you're talking about reading, I mean, words.
Well, he lost a percentage right there, the reading part.
We don't have time to read. We're on TikTok. Help us, Camille. Why do we need to read the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Federalist Papers?
Wow. Okay. So I just went through a 6-week Constitution class by, it's called Constitution Alive by Rick Green and Wall Builders by David Barton. And they're, American historians. David Barton has one of the largest libraries of original documents, journal entries, as well as founding documents. So I went through the class, and it was absolutely just eye-opening how much Christian history we have. And this, you have to know the intent of the founders as well, which is what you find in these other documents and letters to each other, as well as Federalist Papers, all these different things. You find out what they really meant, what was in their minds when they were writing these things. And it just gives you actually a lot more love for a country, respect for a country. And I noticed my vocabulary was growing the next day after I read the Declaration, I was like sounding like a scholar because I was like, man, I've been around some great men all of a sudden. So really, I was like, this Declaration is going to end with something powerful, and it really did. I was also almost cried, and it's just like it really gives you like an extra amount of like love. Like you really want to preserve this nation that they fought for, and when you see the grievances of Britain against us and why we even revolted in the Revolutionary War, I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize how horrible it was and how bad tyranny was over our America. And so it gets you passionate. And I think that once you get into politics, you're pretty much stuck. You can't get out because like you realize how important it is, and you realize that we can actually do something about it. We can actually vote people in, we can vote people out, we can sound the alarm. And our founding fathers, they would never have just sat around and said, oh, someone else can vote while I watched a play or something, and so
Camille's motto is never leave home without your Constitution.
That's right.
So
that's good. A little booklet.
Hey, now I want to ask you two, Camille, are you married?
No.
Haley, are you
Not
married?
yet.
No.
Folks, listen, we have women on today's show that are Constitution Bible loving ladies. And if you want to go fill out a form at info@thrivetimeshow.com, we're going to vet you and screen you, and we're going to Devin, there's not a lot of good guys out there.
True.
On behalf of all men out there, we apologize. We're getting better.
We're bad. We're pigs.
But we're going to we're going to vet these people almost like we're you wouldn't just date somebody without vetting them. You would hope not.
No.
Why would people vote for a candidate without vetting them?
True.
I mean, you know what I mean? Think about that for a second. I mean, Camille, I want to get your take on this. I mean, when you're in the dating game, you're out there dating a guy. I mean, you're not going to just marry a rando. You're going to do your research. Why do you think Americans just do so little research into their candidates and they just go out there and just vote? I mean, maybe it's the same reason a lot of people just jump into marriages. I don't know. Camille, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think that people, like you said, they're distracted doing other things. They're watching Netflix. They don't realize how important it is, and they don't realize that this is a really big deal. And we're not very educated as far as like even how the government works and things like that. I'm learning even so much more now, and I've been voting in 3 elections. I vote in pretty much every election, primaries, small things, big things. I vote on everything possibly can. And so because it's so important. And what I do is I don't always know all these people either. And so I go to the GOP. I go to headquarters. I've knocked doors. We do a lot of music, and so we sing at a lot of events. So in 2020, when did we sing our first song for Rick Santorum? 2012. 2012, we had a viral song for Rick Santorum, and so all the local politicians in Tulsa were like, "Sing for me," And so we'll only lend our voices to people that we really feel are worth it. And so I asked them. I said, "Hey, you know these people better than I, and they know what they voted on. They can see their record. They're like, no, this person voted for abortion, even though they say they're pro-life, or whatever." So I trust people that are literally in it all the time, people's character that I trust. And so I think you need to find people, either look yourself, figure out how to find voting records, and meet the candidates, go to these events. But yeah, I think people don't realize how important it is. And some people, they still think their vote doesn't count. And so they just do whatever.
Yeah. And I think they think in the past, nothing's different between Republican or Democrat or whatever. Like, the sky's not going to fall either way. The reason I think that we especially got involved a lot with Trump this year is because we believe the sky will fall if he doesn't win.
This is true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Camille, I don't know if you and Haley are aware of this, but I don't know, Aaron, if I've even talked to you about this, but the Republican Party reached out to us and asked if we would host a watch party show from the Capitol.
Awesome.
On Election Day there, a watch party. So we're going to be there. A lot of my rowdy friends, the governor of Oklahoma, that crazy guy. Carol Hefner, the head of the Republican Party Finance Committee, will be there.
Yeah. Nice.
And then I will sneak in, and Devin, you'll be there, I think. Are you going to be there, Devin?
I'm going to be there.
We're going to have the whole crew there. Z's going to be co-hosting it. It's going to be like an 8-hour show or a 10-hour show. You guys should come to that. You guys would like it. I don't know if you...
Sounds like it's going to boom.
Goodness.
Are you coming to that?
We're singing somewhere. We're singing somewhere in Ohio for election night, but
you are?
we can figure out to fly in a different time, because that would be really wonderful. I would love that.
Okay, so you're going to be in Ohio singing for the election, for the watch party.
Around the country,
a big state.
So it's been a lot of fun. People keep flying us out and having us come to events. So
awesome. Okay, we're going to go rapid fire now. We have 4 final points I want to hit here in a total of 5 minutes. Can we do it? I think we can do it. You talk about this, Haley, the importance of reading your Bible once per year. Now, what? I mean, read the Bible? We can't read the Bible. We're watching the Masked Voice. The Voice, I mean, it's hard enough to keep up with The Voice, but The Masked Voice, and then you think about, is Survivor still going? Is that still a thing?
I don't know. I've never watched
Whatever.
it.
Is Breaking Bad still a thing? Is that a thing?
No, that's over.
Is Price is Right still a thing?
No, Clay. You're
Is it
way
a-
behind the times.
That is actually, I think it's hosted by Drew Carey now.
Is Wheel of Fortune still a thing? Is Family
I don't
Feud
know.
still a thing?
I don't know. Vanna White's got to be like 90 by now.
Here's the deal. I have no idea what's still a thing or not, but people are watching a lot of people. I'm serious. According to Nielsen right now, the average person is watching over 8 hours of content every single day. I mean, we don't have time to read the Bible. Talk to us, Haley, about the importance of reading that controversial book known as the Bible once a year.
You know what? Camille's actually the one that's read it like 10 times.
What?
I have read it like twice or one time, and when I was reading it, it took me a lot longer than a year because I was writing Bible poetry with like every step Joseph and all this. Okay, anyway, but yeah, Camille, talk about that a little bit.
I get people on Bible plans. Our founding fathers, they made it a practice. I learned this in Well Builders. They made it a practice to read the Bible once a year. And so in our constitutional convention, like they wrote down all their notes. 37% of the quotes were out of the Bible. The next one down was like a preacher or something. And so they thought it was so important. They structured our government after the Bible and after laws in the Bible. That's why I have the 10 Commandments on the walls and all these different clear biblical symbols in our capital, different places on the buildings. But it's so important that we have a foundation as a country. And like Vice President Pence said recently, Christianity is the bedrock of freedom. The reason everyone wants to come here is because Christians are tolerant. We are evangelists, but we don't force anyone to believe things. But we do really have the best thing going because we have the living Christ inside of us who heals, who speaks, who comforts, who like turns people's lives around. And so the Bible is the perfect thing for your whole life. And I'm so thankful. It's getting emotional. They're like, I'm so thankful I have a Bible. It's
good.
the reason my life is on track. It's the reason I am a virgin. You know what I mean? It's the reason I I've lived my life for God, and I try to live my life as clean. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't whatever. Because I don't want to ruin my life. I want to have kids in marriage. I want to have a country that's free. It's just like it frames everything. We don't drink. We're just like, it's not because someone's saying you can't do this.
No. Listen, you can't try to tell me that having a good life is worth it. I mean, think about it. You could have 2 or 3 kids right now out of wedlock. Think about the benefits of this.
Yeah.
You could be totally addicted to substances now.
I mean, think about how much pay on the side for child support and everything. You have a great side income right now.
You could be having all the drama of having stepchildren and the whole deal. And Devin, unfortunately, we see this. I mean, how often do we try to hire somebody? And they almost have to give us to schedule them. They say, well, I can work every second Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because that's when I have my kids.
And at Thanksgiving, they have to celebrate 3 different Thanksgivings with the 3 different baby dads.
You're missing out on a great life here. I mean, you could be going to rehab, in and out of it. You could have a movie made about you. You could have, what's the show where the music artist did really well and then their life falls apart and then they do a show about that? What's that show called?
Is it Kardashians? Is that
Behind
what
the
it is?
Music or something?
Behind the Music, I think.
Yeah, you could have a Behind the Music series right now.
Yeah.
Oh man, we don't watch TV either, so we don't know that show. But yeah,
okay, Haley, what inspired you to write the new song "Back the Blue"?
Well, we got invited to a police event, and we told my dad about it, and he said, "Girls, I just heard the Austin Police Department was defunded, and there was a police that wrote a letter saying we were there for you. Now you're not here for us." And so we got busy on a song within 4 hours.
Or I said, Lord, pray it on. I said, Dad, pray it on me. And literally with 4 hours it came. And we're just we got to back these police officers because they are you don't realize what happens when everyone's for you and then everyone's against you overnight. You know what I mean?
Man.
Everyone was praising them for being there for us, in the COVID-19 everything times. But so they need our love and support. In every industry, they said there's about 3% of people that are bad. And so if you got rid of all teachers because you had a bad history teacher, we would have no teachers anymore because everyone's had a bad history teacher,
This is true.
And so you got to get rid of the corruption, but keep the good and strengthen the good and show them, hey, you know what? Most Americans back you. So
everybody's for you, then they're all against you, just like Trump. Up until he ran the first time. They were all for him until they were against him.
Interesting. Now, point number 6. By the way, 50 Cent is now in favor of President Trump. Just want to throw that out there. This just in.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be 20 Cent.
He didn't want to be 20 Cent.
Oh, yes. Okay. Now, point number 6 I want to cover. The pro-life song, Camille. What inspired you to write the pro-life song, a.k.a. the pro-not baby murder song?
I know, totally. I think it should be like pro-life and pro-death, right? Okay,
Yep.
so so we watched the movie Unplanned recently, and if you haven't seen that, Mike Lindell, he
Great
actually
movie.
funded it. He's pulling down the sign at the end. Little spoiler if you haven't seen it, but you need to watch that movie. And I've been a pro-life girl forever, you know. And so, but then I watched the movie, I teared up, and I said, wait a minute, what am I doing to end abortion in America? You know, and so it's like it's great to be pro-life, it's great to watch the movies, it's great to whatever, but like, what are we actually doing to end abortion? And one way is we vote people in that are godly and pro-lifers. And that's, you know, Planned Parenthood is really scared right now because they know the life of conception is about to happen. And so I just heard great news from Wall Builders. I really encourage people to watch Wall Builders and Rick Green. But they said a Satanist was coming and saying, this is part of my body. You know, the baby is actually part of my body. And so that was coming. That might be one of the new things that the Supreme Court, which is going to have to force them to choose when life begins, or say it begins at conception. So sometimes the devil overplays his hands. But yeah, so I'm like, you know what, I can do something about this problem. And I asked the Lord, make me a pivotal part in ending abortion. And so you have to get to people's hearts, you know, and the Holy Spirit will get to people's hearts as well. And so we want to make a song. We want to make songs for things that matter. And what could be more important than saving people's lives? Because literally, it destroys the conscience of a nation. Mother Teresa said, any country that accepts abortion is not teaching its people to love, but to use violence to get what they want. This is why the greatest destroyer of love and peace is abortion. And so we can't stand by and just let convenience and let deception steal our hearts, steal our minds, steal our country, and just make it go down the wrong direction even more. So
wow,
we want to be part of it.
Haley, final two questions here for you. So much disinformation. So many people like Chris Cuomo who's telling you need to wear a mask, and then it comes out that he refuses to wear a mask in his apartment complex. So many hypocritical people. You got like the governor of Michigan saying you can't go boating, but then her husband goes boating. Disinformation everywhere. Who are a few voices that Americans, freedom-loving Americans, can trust?
Okay, we have a really good list here, and these are our favorites. The first is Candace Owens,
as
we all know. We got Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, Ben Shapiro, The Officer Tatum, Live Action with Lila Rose, Rick Green of Patriot Academy and Constitution Alive, which you talked about, David Barton of Wall Builders, Breitbart News, and the Epic Times.
Breitbart News. You know, I know that we're going to have Charlie Kirk on the Thrive Time show here very soon. I know we've had Rick Green on the Thrive Time show. I get continually rejected by Candace Owens. You know, she's kind of a big deal, but I want her. She's absolutely great. David Barton, I feel like he spoke at a chapel that I was at one time at Oral Roberts University. I feel like he was I feel like I've heard him speak a few times. And again, can you repeat that list one more time? Because I know some of our listeners are taking notes.
Yeah. Sure. Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA, Ben Shapiro, The Officer Tatum.
He's a former police officer.
Live Action with Lila Rose.
She's the leading pro-life. She's 5 million followers online. The leading. They put out videos, amazing videos, have educated us even more on pro-life things.
Right. Rick Green of Patriot Academy and Constitution Alive.
Constitution Alive. You got to get on the Zoom class for the 6-week free Constitution class. And so find us at Camille and Haley on Instagram, and you can ask us how to get onto that.
Right. Then David Barton of Wall Builders. He has one of the biggest libraries of historical documents and does White House tours.
Yeah, Christian White House tours showing the Christian history of our Christian art and everything in our White House.
And Breitbart News. Andrew Breitbart is called Father of Citizen Journalism.
One American News.
That's why I lost it. One American News Network with Liz Wheeler and the Epic Times. Their goal was to take down the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP.
Yeah, so that was our original goal, is to take the CCP down, and so now they are in America helping communism not come to here. So
love it.
They're awesome.
Now, Camille, a final question for you. Why is it important for all Americans to consistently pray for our nation?
Oh my goodness. So God moves, he beckons to the call of his people, you know. So if my people who are humble themselves and pray and turn from the wicked ways, God will heal the land, hear from heaven and everything. You know, we know that verse. And he really does. And we're seeing so many amazing things happening in America right now. And the church, as bad as COVID has been, it has woken the church up, you know. And people are praying, people are fasting. And so we make it a point to fast and pray every Thursday for our nation, for the right husbands, for, you know, someone said, hey, pray on your husband. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And so almost a year it's been now, and God has just been moving in our lives. That's the first thing fasting and prayer does, is it changes you, you know, and then it moves into your family, your country, everything. And so Haley said, even if you stop fasting, Camille, I'm going to keep, because it's so many great results in our life. And so
she got me on it.
the church is waking up, and we have to, and God is answering. And so when we turn to Him, He turns to us, and He does great things. And so we're encouraged, very encouraged.
Camille,
President Trump's doing amazing.
Camille and Haley, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry. What were you saying right there? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I don't know. President Trump's doing an amazing job right now, and he is really protecting religious freedom and things that we never saw that could be changed with like the veterans and with healthcare and like things that were just like, wow, how could who's going to confront these issues? He's actually doing, and I think God is answering the prayers of His people.
If people want to learn more about you two, what's the best place for them to go to listen to your music and to learn more about what you're getting involved in?
CamilleandHaley.com. You can see we're starting to blog, and we have our music on there. Also, Camille and Haley on Instagram, YouTube.
Or thesisterduo.com. It's easier to spell. The Sister Duo.
It's a redirect. But you can find us on Instagram everywhere. And so we are going to be putting out even more content on why to vote, how to be involved. So we're really action-oriented, and we got our pro-life song coming out. We got our Back the Blue song coming out, and we have our 33 million song views for
March for Life.
President Trump.
Yes.
Keep America Great as well. So you can find those. That got on big on
and
Twitter.
Today we're in studio recording a song called That's Why America Loves President Trump.
Nice. Well, hey, I appreciate you so much for standing up for what's right, for sharing the good news before it became the popular thing to do. But if you're out there and you're looking for the popular thing to do, you know that 50 Cent is now in favor of President Trump. And so that is a fun fact. But thank you, two, for being here, and I wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take care. All right, Aaron Antis, you are a man who sells a lot of homes per year at shawhomes.com.
True.
How many, in terms of millions of dollars, like last month or the month before, are you selling more than $10 million a month of homes?
Yes.
If the economy is shut, do you also share the belief that it won't be open?
Yes, I do share that.
Now, when you build with Shaw Homes, you build only in the state of Oklahoma, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you're from Michigan, right?
Born and raised in Ann
Do you still
Arbor.
have family in Michigan?
I have one brother still there. Yes.
Well, there's all different kinds of business models that work in an open and free economy.
True.
And as a kind of a fun capstone thought, because I believe President Trump's going to win. He's going to lift these mask mandates.
Yes.
Our newest member of the Supreme Court Justice team there should be joining the team tomorrow morning, it looks like. She should be confirmed tonight at 8:50 p.m.
Very
so
exciting.
many good things. I think the economy is going to boom. I think the corruption will be exposed. I'm looking forward to having a great year in these great United States. But if you're in the Michigan area and you were looking to build a new home, you couldn't call Shaw Homes.
No. That's
But
correct.
if you built that new home and you bought a dog to go with the new home, you said, I got a new home and now I want a new dog. I mean, a lot of times people build a new house, they want a dog.
That's true.
They could call, if they lived in Michigan, they could call Tip Top Canine because Tip Top Canine now services the Michigan area.
We do. That was a great segue.
It was a beautiful segue. I thought about it for several weeks, actually. I'm very excited about that segue. I almost want to do it again, but I just want to take a moment just to cheer for myself right there. Good job. No, but seriously, Ryan, you guys at Tip Top Canine have grown from one location now to how many locations?
We have 12 locations, 2 in Michigan, 1 serving the Troy, Michigan area, and the other in Novi, Michigan.
I don't want to overcomplicate this, so let me just say it this way. If you're listening to this show today and you don't like your job and you want to own a business, you want to own your own job, a Tip Top Canine is a great way to do that. Buying a Tip Top Canine franchise is a great way to do that. And again, how many locations do you have, Ryan?
Well, we have 12 currently.
So there's 3 steps if someone wants to buy a Tip Top Canine franchise. Step 1, they go to tiptopcanine.com. They reach out for additional information.
Yes.
Step 2, you send them a franchise disclosure document. We go over any answers we answer any of the questions they may have. And step 3, they have to come out for a discovery day to meet you and your wonderful wife, Rachel. Why do you want to meet all of the people and decide if they're a good fit before selling them a Tip Top Canine franchise?
Well, we want to make sure they're not crazy. Right.
Okay.
And we want them to meet us, make sure they know we're not crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we actually work dogs together, make sure they're actually going to like it.
And how long does it take for somebody to go from knowing nothing about dogs in terms of training dogs to becoming a Tip Top Canine franchise owner? How many weeks of training does that take?
Takes about 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yep.
Now, Andrew, you're working with these Tip Top Canine locations. You're not selling a franchise.
No, I'm not.
But you work with the franchisees.
I do. I do get the opportunity to do that, work with those guys.
Is it amazing to you the gross revenue these guys are hitting?
Yeah, it blows my mind sometimes that you can actually make that much money training dogs.
Have you
It
noticed
blows
that
my
the
mind.
gross
It's
revenue
pretty
of
cool.
some of the Tip Top Canines, some of the Tip Top Canine franchises, that their gross revenue is higher than that of the doctors that you work with?
Yeah, it's happened. Yeah.
It's crazy.
With
Is
a
it
week,
not?
yeah, gross revenue in a week. Sometimes they
They
jump
could-
on the call and they're like, "Big wins! We had our best week ever," and it's
So, Ryan, in
crazy.
the franchise disclosure document, you will
Yes.
disclose how much gross sales these franchisees are doing.
Correct.
Can you share with us just a couple numbers so people out there can have some sort of context for how much gross revenue they could generate?
Yeah, so
as
for
a Tip Top
one
Canine
of our
franchise owner?
locations in Wausau, Oklahoma, after it was in a year and a half, they have a population in their area is only 120,000 people.
From a startup.
From a startup, yeah. And, their last month on the recorded period was $38,000.
$38,000 of gross revenue.
Wow.
It's pretty big for a really small area.
I mean, that's impressive. So if you're out there, folks, and you're saying, you know what, I'm looking for time freedom and financial freedom, and I'm looking for a vehicle to get me from A to B. I'm looking for a business vehicle to get me from point A to B. I encourage you to check out tiptopcanine.com. And if you are in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, northeast Oklahoma area, and Aaron, if somebody's looking to buy a new home, to build a new home, Shaw Homes is the highest rated home building company in northeast Oklahoma.
True.
It's been around for over 30, how many years now?
35.
35 plus years. And I believe that if people want to, you'll give them, you'll sign an autograph for them.
That's true. Those are actually free. And I also have a lender that gives free high fives as well.
Unbelievable value there. Check out shawhomes.com. Now, Team America, we're gonna just pray. We're gonna come into agreement right now that America is going to be open and free. Mask mandates are going to be lifted. President Trump's going to win this thing. Our
Yes.
new Supreme Court judge is going to judge based upon the Constitution and the very
That's right.
principles that made this country great to begin with. I could not be more excited about the year 2020. It's going to be epic. It's going to be incredible. Everybody out there, stay encouraged. It's 4th and 1 right now for America. We're on the 1 yard line.
Yes.
We have 1 yard to go, folks.
Ah.
1 yard to go.
Yes.
We've got to run that ball into the end zone. How do you do that? You've got to get out there and vote for President Donald J. Trump. You have to do it today. Do it as soon if you can do it. Figure out where you need to vote. Figure that out. Figure it out right now and get there. Commit to today. Put it in your calendar that you're going to be there and you're going to vote. Don't tell me you didn't have time to vote. Don't tell me you were too busy to vote. You have to make it happen. It's 4th and 1 for America. We've got to get into the end zone. There's no second place here. We have to win. It has to happen, and it's up to you and it's up to me to make sure that this country stays free. Now let's end this thing with a boom. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. So just as I say, we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around. We aren't going to let any injunction turn us around.
Gotta pick a side, man, it's do or die. Tryna stay up in the middle, man, that's suicide. Be hot or be cold, what's it gonna be? Spoil me with loyalty, it's all I wanna see. If you ain't saying nothing, then you saying something. What you see is what you get, man, I ain't never frontin'. I see your problem, I'm lazy, cause I ain't never running. Opposition passing it off, cause they ain't never wanted. Come on, time to say goodbye, it is you and I.
When you compromise, it will multiply.
We ain't never scared to put it on the line.
It's time to pick a side, it's do or die.
Time to pick a side, homie, do or die.
When you compromise, it will multiply.
We ain't never scared to put it on the line.
It's time to pick a side, it's do or die. No mess, no vex for me. Both middle fingers up for Dr. G. I'm never gonna listen to his latest pitch or the scarf queen. His Dr. Brooks is up. I'm an American with the First Amendment and the Second Amendment to defend it. You want our guns? Well, come and take it. I hope you're good at dodging bullets and you're praying. The year 2020, the year of perfect vision. The time when you and I have to make a decision. Open up your minds like Hunter's laptop. But when you see corruption, this time it's gotta stop. Back the police, say no to the beast. No to the mask, take no vaccine. Back the police, say no to the beast. No to the mask, take no vaccine.
Time to say goodbye, it is you and I.
When you compromise, it will multiply.
We ain't never scared to put it on the line.
It's time to pick a side, it's do or die.
Time to pick a side, homie, do or die.
When you compromise, it will multiply.
We ain't never scared to put it on the line.
It's time to pick a side, it's do or die.
Come on. If you compromise, it'll multiply. Treat you like a doormat, treat you to speak your mind. Ain't hard to find, you must be blind if you can't see the sign. I got a spine, I won't never let them take what's mine. Time to unify, I'm talking you and I. If you ain't riding for the cause, better move aside. Sit back, watch me work, I'ma do it right. Time for you to pick a side, it's looking like a do or die. Time to say goodbye, it is you and I.
When you compromise, it will multiply.
We ain't never scared to put it on the line.
It's time to pick a side, it's do or die.
Time to pick a side, homie, do or die.
When you compromise, it will multiply.
We ain't never scared to put it on the line.
It's time to pick a side, it's do or die.
Our country will never be a socialist country. We're not going to let it happen.
And that is another lyrical miracle on the Thrive Time Show.